studies, so I'm just going to do a short study tonight and speak on a subject of a relationship that seems to have fallen by the wayside over the years. Anybody know what that relationship will be?
The one with the Lord?
Huh?
Relationship with the Lord?
Relationship with God. No, that's not what I'm talking about tonight. Boys and girls, what kind of relationship is falling by the wayside? We kind of let it slack off a little over the years. Can y'all think of anything? No? I thought y'all were coming out here to help me. My goodness. Man. Was I wrong? I don't know. They might help me before it's over with. Anybody else? Anybody know of any relationship that's just kind of fallen by the wayside over the years? That's one of them. That's not the subject tonight. Friends. We're going to be talking about friendship. Best friends, you might say. So tonight's study is on friendship / best friends. What does the Bible say about friendship? Anybody really know? Have you really looked at what the Bible says about friendship? Well, it says more probably than we would think it says, if you really look at it. The theme of friendship weaves through the whole storyline of Scripture, climaxing at the cross with Jesus Christ and stretching ahead into the eternal future of a true friendship, one that will be eternal. If we look at Genesis 2:18, it says it is not good for man to be alone. He told us at the very beginning. That's right. And what comes from the wife and the husband? And before long, you've got a community. And if you look at Proverbs 18:1, it tells us there, it says, unfriendly people care only about themselves. They lash out at common sense. And that's what it tells us about unfriendly people. I never knew that. You know, we all have met people who say they want to be our friends, but you find out pretty quickly all they want from you is what you can do for them or what you can be to them. But then there are certain people who enter into your life and you find out quickly that they don't want to use you, they don't want to manipulate you, they don't want to try to exploit you. They are not interested in what you can do for them. They only care about what they can do for you. You know, when you think of friendship, you have those that sometimes they're there as long as you can do for them. But then when it comes time for them to do for you, where are they? Gone. But like I said, then there are those that don't want a thing from you. They just want to be there for you and be your friend. And out of this select few, there are a few who become your best friend. You know, I believe if we look back to our time in elementary school, for some of you young boys and girls here, and for us, we'd have to look back to elementary and then look back to high school and all of this. But if we look back to those times in our life and think about our best friend, you wanted to do everything with them. Can anybody remember a friend that you had maybe elementary school, high school? You wanted to do everything with them. You shared everything about your life with them. If you were down and out, you called them and they were there for you and you were there for them and they just came running or you went running to them. Does anybody remember that? I've seen friends that were that way. In elementary school, you've got a friend and you think, oh, I want so-and-so to come over today, Mom. And they say, well, they were there yesterday. But you wanted that friend with you. In high school, you think, oh, can I go tonight, Mama? Can I go, Daddy? I just want to be with so-and-so. You know, that's my best friend. You wanted to do everything with them. It was a relationship unlike any other at that time. It was a relationship that made a difference in your life at that time. A relationship which helped you sustain in hard times, and a relationship which produced laughter and fun that helped you through the pressure of peer pressure, of parent pressure, homework pressure. Any pressure that came your way, you felt like you could handle because you had that friend. And if you look at, we can look at Job 2:11, and I'm going to read that about an instance where I was talking about, you know, your friend would come running when you needed them, or you'd go running to them, and so forth. And we're going to look at Job 2:11 and see what it tells us there. It said, now when Job's 3 friends heard of all the evil that had come upon him, they came every one of them from his own place. Eliphaz and the Temanite, and Bildad the Shunite, and Zophar the Naamathite, or whatever they are. For they had made an appointment together to come to mourn with him and to comfort him. They came from wherever they were to comfort and mourn with him. You might say they came running. That's the kind of friends they were. They knew that he needed help, that he was down and out, and needed comforting, and they went. You know, when we think back at these kind of relationships, we basically, if they were really a friend or a best friend, it was a relationship of loyalty and honesty. One of a selfless nature as we put ourselves before our friends. You know, with that, our key verse is found in John 15:13. And it tells us, greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends. What are you willing to do for a friend? Think about that. You know, friendship is marked by sacrifice, if you think about it. A strong friendship is never easy. It takes work. If you are happy to sacrifice for another person, then you'll know you are a real friend. When you can sacrifice for that person, then you can call yourself a true friend. You know, while most people, I would say, long for friendship, genuine friendship is hard to come by. Would most people agree with that? Genuine friendship is hard to come by. Proverbs 20:6 reads this, and I'm going to read this from the New Living Translation. It says, most men will proclaim everyone his own goodness, but a faithful man who can find? The just man walketh in his integrity, his children are blessed after him, it says. But it tells us there, it says, most men will proclaim everyone his own goodness, but a faithful man, who can find him? A faithful friend, who can find that kind of friend? And if you look at the Matthew Henry commentary, it kind of puts it like this. It said, it is hard to find one who will do more either that they speak or they care to hear spoken of. You know, it's hard to find somebody that will be a true friend in the straight, in a difficult and distressful, or a difficulty and distress or need. When things are going good, a lot of times you can find a friend because you don't need them. You don't need to interrupt their life. But when it comes to times of difficulty, distress, or need, where are your friends? Where would a true friend be? You know, many factors contribute to the dearth or the scarcity of friendship nowadays. The increasing mobility of our culture has made lifelong friends a rare commodity. Would you agree with that? I mean, think of it. Even when we stay in one place for a long time, the rapid pace of life makes it difficult to carve out time for building and sustaining friendships. It makes it hard, but it doesn't say it's impossible. Because everything's possible with the Lord. Social media may help us connect with our classmates and distant relatives. But if you think about it, it also poses an electronic barrier to the kinds of practices most necessary to deep friendships. It can be a barrier. You know, one example of social media, and everybody I think here knows of it, what is it? Facebook. Very popular. Huh? Oh, the rest of those, yeah, there's a lot of them. What, Twitter and Facebook and Snapchat? That's right. There's a lot of them. You probably know more about those than I do. I told you came here to help, didn't I? You just didn't know how much you were going to help this old lady. You know, friendship is often highlighted by Facebook as friendiversary. or videos and best friends forever promises. So hold on to this thought, best friends. Think about that as we do the rest of this study. Best friends. Tonight we're going to look at what it takes to have the best friend and be the best friend, as we use Jonathan and David's friendship as an example. But before we go further, take a moment to think of who your best friends are. Just think about that a minute. Or who you think your best friends are. Now, as you ponder on your friends, let's look at 3 things that will always be true of someone who is truly your friend and who could be your best friend. Then see how your friends measure up. The first thing on our list, best friends give selfless love. If they're a best friend, they give selfless love. The story of Jonathan and David gives a great example of such selfless love. I'm going to look at 1 Samuel 18, verse 1 first, which says, "And it came to pass, when he had made an end of speaking to Saul, that the soul of Jonathan was knit with the soul of David, and Jonathan loved him as his own soul," or as the NIV version tells us, as himself. You know, true and lasting friendship can occur suddenly, as was the case here with Jonathan and David. Their souls were knit together, we're told there. Is anybody in here knit? Crochet, knit, whatever, kind of similar. I think they both make sort of a chain of stitches that go together. That's right. It's just like a chain. They come together, your stitches. It tells us there that their souls were knit together. Chained together, you might say. You know, so Jonathan and David weren't just friends. They were soul brothers, you might say. Because it says their souls were knit together. Their souls were knit together. Keep that in mind. You know, Jonathan loved David more than Jonathan loved Jonathan, more than he loved himself, when you look at his actions. And what does he do by doing this? This relationship, therefore, fulfilled the second greatest commandment as spoken of in Matthew 22, 37, 39. It tells us there, it says, "Jesus said unto him, Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment. And the second is like unto it, Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself." So therefore, this relationship really fulfilled this verse, these few verses here. When we look at this relationship of Jonathan and David, Jonathan had many reasons to avoid a relationship with David, if you know the story of Jonathan and David. Not the least of which was that David has been anointed to be the next king. You can find that in 1 Samuel 16, verses 1 through 13. David was anointed to be the next king. But think about it. It was a position that by birthright should have belonged to Jonathan. Right. You can find that in 1 Samuel 20, 30 through 31. But Jonathan loved David as much as he loved himself, as we were told in 1 Samuel 18 and 3. And he proved it by contending with his father Saul over this treatment of David. And we'll get a little further into how the treatment of Saul to David was in just a minute, and you'll better understand this story. You know, all of this guy has come into the picture. All of a sudden, these two people come together. They're knit together. And one of them just basically gives up without jealousy and rage or anything else. and gives up his kingship. Jonathan didn't become jealous, but gave up his birthright for his friend, who was chosen by God. Jonathan complied with Ephesians 5:17, you might say, which tells us there, not being foolish, but understanding the will of the Lord. It says, actually, therefore, do not be foolish, but understand what the will of the Lord is. And Jonathan believed, and he understood what the will of God was in this situation. And he therefore gave up his birthright without any rage against this guy. He's remained close friends with him, knit together. 1 Samuel 18:4 shows that Jonathan took off his robe and he gave it to David, along with his tunic, his sword, his bow, and his belt. Man, how many people would do that and not be enraged? How many people would even do that for what they consider a best friend? Much less just anybody. Much like Jesus, who stripped himself, so to speak, to clothe us, emptied himself to enrich us, gave his life that we might have life, Jonathan did for David. You know, later in 1 Samuel 21-4, we're told there in 1 Samuel 21-4, and David fled from Naioth in Ramah and came and said before Jonathan, what have I done? What is mine iniquity? And what is my sin before thy father, that he seeketh my life? And he said unto him, God forbid, thou shalt not die. Behold, my father will not do anything, or nothing, either great or small, but that he will show it to me. And why should my father hide this thing from me? It is not so, Jonathan tells David. He didn't believe that his father would want to kill David. And David swore moreover and said, thy father certainly knoweth that I have found grace in thine eyes. And he saith, let not Jonathan know this, lest he be grieved. But truly as the Lord liveth, and as thy soul liveth, there is but a step between me and death, is what David tells him. Then said Jonathan unto David, whatsoever thy soul desireth, I will even do it for thee. Now I'm going to read that in the New Living Translation, which tells us there, it says, David now fled from Naioth in Ramah and found Jonathan. What have I done? He exclaimed. What is my crime? How have I offended your father that he is determined to kill me? That's not true, Jonathan protested. You're not going to die. He always tells me everything he's going to do, even the little things. I know my father wouldn't hide something like this from me. It just isn't so. Then David took an oath before Jonathan and said, your father knows perfectly well about our friendship. So he has said to himself, I won't tell Jonathan. Why should I hurt him? But I swear to you that I am only a step away from death. I swear it by the Lord and by your own soul. Tell me what I can do to help you, Jonathan exclaimed to David. So Jonathan asked here, what can I do to help you? Jonathan knows that his father wants to kill his friend, someone that he's become knit with. He said, whatever you want me to do, I'll do for you. You know, this is a true friendship. This is a true friendship. Thus also Christ testifies his love and his friendship to us as he says, ask and it shall be given you. And that's in Matthew 7:7 and 8. Thus we must testify our friendship, our love to him by keeping his commandments. Now think about it. Just think a minute about what we just said here. He says to him, Jonathan says to David, what can I do for you? I'll do it. Tell me. I'll do it. But be honest with yourself. How many people in your life would do whatever you wanted them to do? Anybody? Do you know anybody in your life that would do whatever you wanted them to do to help you out? Now, if you're their best friend, do you even know a best friend or a friend that would do anything that you ask them? That's good, because that's a rare thing. And how many people do you have in your life that you would really do whatever you could for them? Now, this means getting up in the middle of the night, possibly. taking a phone call. Have you ever had anyone say to you, or have you said to someone yourself, if you ever need anything, just call me. Let me know. Call anytime. Has anybody ever heard that statement? Have you ever made that statement? You know, many times this statement comes with conditions. Those conditions aren't mentioned at the time. But to the person that made the statement, there's a condition there that they just don't mention. As long as they may be thinking to themselves, you know, anytime you need me, sure, call me. But then all of a sudden they get the call in the middle of the night, well, I can't believe they called me this time of night. They need to hush, go on and call me tomorrow. And you're the one said, call me anytime. So did you mean what you said? You know, they basically have a condition. As long as it doesn't involve money, or if it doesn't cost me too much, call me. If it doesn't inconvenience me, just don't call me after midnight. If you need to talk, call me in the morning. Well, that person may be on their deathbed and need to talk to you then. They may not need you come morning. They might have done something crazy for them. They might be thinking, well, if it doesn't interrupt my schedule, call. If it does, you know, well, you just have to wait till another time. What kind of friend is that? Is that a friend? Did Christ tell us that? He gave his life for us. But Jonathan's offer to David was unconditional, as we can tell by his actions. As the old saying goes, actions speak louder than words. It was selfless love displayed. Jonathan showed himself to be the ultimate best friend by his display of selfless love. You know, Jonathan and David's friendship reminds me of Proverbs 18 and 24, which tells us, there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother. And I think a lot of people in life have seen people and friends that stuck a lot closer to them than their own family members. Second on our list of 3 things that will always be true of someone who is truly a friend is this: best friends give steadfast loyalty. So we've confirmed that love is the foundation of any friendship, basically, as we've seen demonstrated by Jonathan and David's friendship so far, and likewise from John 15 and 13, which, as we read, greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends. Proverbs 17 and 17 tell us a friend loveth at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. A friend will love at all times. It's not a conditional love. So as love is the foundation of all friendships and relationships, loyalty is the glue. As we will see when we further examine the friendship of Jonathan and David. You know, some examples of loyalty are found in these passages of Scripture. First, I'm going to read Matthew 26. And it's not what happened, but it's what was said here. If what was said had been true, this would have been an example of loyalty. Matthew 26, 33 through 35. He says, Peter declared, even if everyone else deserts you, I will never desert you. Jesus replied, I tell you the truth, Peter, this very night before the rooster crows, you will deny 3 times that you even know me. No, Peter insisted, even if I have to die with you, I will never deny you. And all the other disciples vowed the same. If we could follow this, that is a true friend. That is loyalty. Anytime that you can tell somebody you'll never desert them and you don't desert them, then that's loyalty. If you'll die for them, he says, even if I have to die with you, I will never deny you. What loyalty? And another example would be in Ruth 1, 16 and 17, as we're speaking about loyalty. Well, I don't know too much, I guess, because I'm sure having trouble finding it. Ruth 1. you find it, read it for me. Ruth 1. R-U-T-H, Ruth. There we go, let's see. Ruth 1, 16 and 17. It says, but Ruth replied, don't ask me to leave you and turn back. Wherever you go, I will go. Wherever you live, I will live. Your people will be my people, and your God will be my God. Wherever you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord punish me severely if I allow anything but death to separate us. What loyalty? We don't see a lot of that kind of loyalty in friendships today. If you even see friendships much anymore. When we look at Jonathan's loyalty to David to get just how loyal Jonathan was, we have to look at how costly his friendship was to Jonathan. This was a costly friendship. It cost him the favor of his father, King Saul, as well as his father. It cost him the favor of his father, King Saul, as well as his kingship. He would never be king as long as David was around. This friendship complicated Jonathan's life big time. Sometimes friendships can complicate your life, but if you're a true friend, you'll stick with them through those complications. You know, it complicated his life big time because his own father wanted to kill his friend. David, as we see in Samuel 19:1, it tells us there, 1 Samuel 19:1. It says, Saul now urged his servants and his son Jonathan to assassinate David. But Jonathan, because of his strong affection for David, told him what his father was planning to do. Tomorrow morning, he warned him, you must find a hiding place out in the fields. I'll ask my father to go out there with me, and I'll talk to him about you. Then I'll tell you everything I can find out. The next morning, Jonathan spoke with his father about David, saying, many good things about him. The king must not sin against his servant David, Jonathan said. He's never done anything to harm you. He has always helped you in any way he could. So we're going to stop there for a second and look at this. So we see that Saul spoke to Jonathan, his son, to tell him and his servants that he wanted them to kill David. If you want to observe true loyalty of a friend, pay close attention to what Jonathan does here after being ordered by the king, his father, to kill David, his friend. He warns David to go into hiding, it said there in verse 2. He went to his friend and he warned him. He went against his own father for his friend. In this case, that was fine. There are certain times that we shouldn't do. You know, he did something which under any other ordinary circumstance he could have been killed for. He stands up to the king, as we saw in verses 3 and 4. Now, I would myself have to say that is a true friend. A true friend always has your back, as they say. And Jonathan had David's back. As we see Jonathan did in 1 Samuel 19:1-7, as he went to his father on behalf of David. He had David's back. He was looking out for his friend. You know, a true friend will not talk negatively about you when you are not around. If you're a true friend, you're not going to talk negative stuff about your friend when they're not around. And when others talk negative about them, and you're a true friend, you will defend them publicly. Even if you may have to go to them privately later and talk to them about the situation, but you're still not going to down to other people. You know, Proverbs 27:5-6 basically tells us better open rebuke than hidden love. Your friends will tell you the truth even when it hurts if they're a true friend, because they care about you. Faithful are the wounds of a friend, we are told there in Proverbs 27:5-6. Faithful are the ones that are friends. As Proverbs 17:17 says, a friend loves at all times, not just through the good times, but also through the difficult times. True friends strengthen and help each other, as Ecclesiastes 4:9-12 will tell us. It says, two people are better off than one, for they can help each other succeed. If one person falls, the other can reach out and help, but someone who falls alone is in real trouble. Likewise, two people lying close together can keep each other warm, but how can one be warm alone? A person standing alone can be attacked and defeated, but two can stand back to back and conquer. Three are even better, for a triple braided cord is not easily broken. And that's the benefits of a friendship, if it's a true friendship. You've got somebody there to help you, whatever you might go through. I would think that would tell us one thing, that friendships are important, just from these scriptures we've talked about and found here in the Bible. Now, last but not least on our list of three things that will always be true of someone who is truly a friend, or a best friend, possibly. Best friends give spiritual leadership. You know, there is no friendship like a friendship where both friends have a heart for God, because they know what true love is, as was the case with Jonathan and David. The reason Jonathan and David's friendship was so strong under such circumstances was their mutual love for God. It makes all the difference. True friends strengthen and help each other, as we see Jonathan did for David. It's 1 Samuel 23:14-16. It said, David now stayed in the strongholds of the wilderness and in the hill country of Ziph. Saul hunted him day after day, but God didn't let Saul find him. One day near Horish, David received the news that Saul was on the way to Ziph to search for him and kill him. Jonathan went to find David and encouraged him to stay strong in his faith in God. He didn't just go to him to talk to him about anything and everything, but he went to him and encouraged him to stay strong in the faith of God. You know, as Ecclesiastes declares in chapter 4, verses 9-12, two are better than one, and if they are friends, how much sweeter. A true friend is a valuable ally. As iron sharpens iron, so a friend sharpens a friend, Proverbs 27:17 tells us. You know, this is especially true when both serve the Lord. Godly friends give good advice. You have to be careful where you get your advice from. You know, the soundest advice comes from the Bible. Therefore, friends who remind us of helpful scriptures are wise counselors, you might say. They keep us on the right track. In fact, Proverbs 12:26 says this. It says, the godly give good advice to their friends, the wicked lead them astray. Like I said, be careful where you get your advice from. Godly friends will give you good advice, but the wicked, the sinner, will lead you astray. And once they've led you astray, are they going to come running when you need them? You know, the Bible says to have friends, we should show ourselves to be friendly. Can you show yourself to be friendly? No? Think about it then. You know, the Proverbs contain much wisdom about both being a friend and how to find a friend. There are fewer things in life that are more valuable than a good friend. You know, I've never really heard anyone say they wish for fewer, less meaningful relationships. Does anybody in here wish that they had fewer and less meaningful relationships? I believe each of us longs to be more deeply connected with friends and in those relationships that we do have with friends. You know, as we acknowledged at the beginning of our lesson, the theme of friendship weaves through the whole storyline of Scripture, climaxing at the cross of Jesus Christ and stretching out ahead into an eternal future of true friendship. You know, the Bible is filled with inspiring stories about people of faith who supported each other in times of trouble as well as good times. In fact, our love for each other may be the most unmistakable evidence of God in our lives. Y'all may get out of here early. So we need to really just take a break from our busy day and take in these Bible verses about friendship. Have you ever really taken time to study all of this? And there's so many more that I couldn't even put into one lesson. It's interesting. Research it. Just go through, find all the different things about friends, friendships. They'll give you a list and remind you how important it is to refresh, to renew, and to revitalize these friendships. These all-important connections as friends. Faith and friendship go hand in hand after all. You know, our world, I would say, is in need of people who show themselves friendly, that there will be friendships. Look around you. We need more friendly people. People that are wanting to be friends, not people that want to destroy each other and everything around them. We are all God's creation. You know, studies show our culture's increasing social isolation, you might say. If you look around, they've got several studies that shows that we're becoming a social isolation of people or whatever. We are in the midst of a loneliness epidemic, you might say. And we are. I've seen people and talked to people, and people are lonely. Learn to be a friend. Let others be a friend to you. I know that we're busy. Most of us work. But there's still time in our day to be a friend to someone. To let somebody be a friend to us. Even Christ found time to be our friend. To give his life for us. There were other things he could have done. But he decided to take the time to do what he knew we needed done. You know, like I said, studies are showing that our culture, we look around this culture, other countries, whatever. I believe people are so lonely, and that's where so much violence and hate comes from. They haven't taken time to learn how to love and be a friend, so they've taken time to learn how to hate and destroy. For what? Because in the end, it's not going to happen. With that, I'm going to let you out a little early. I don't think anybody will mind, but it's just a short lesson. I couldn't really get a lot into it and finish it. I could have done more, but a lot of times I run over when I do that. But just think about that. If you get time, just take time to study what a true friend is through the Scripture.